Hi everyone, this is Denny with my YouTube channel, Why Is This True? And joining me today from the Pacific Northwest is Anthony Zender. And Anthony has recently come into the internet world talking about his secret space program experiences. He's done one interview with James Rink, and I think I might be number two. I don't know, maybe number three. But anyway, welcome Anthony, and so thank you so much for doing this with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Denny, so much. Yeah, it's good to get this out, and it's good to be on the show. And because I will say, right now, they don't want me to be doing this interview. But when I say that, I don't say it in like a negative way, like they're trying to harm me. They don't want me to really come forward with what I'm about to talk about, because it may be too early, but they just, they want to keep it quiet right now. So, but I'm ready to start telling about my experiences with the secret space program. So I'm ready for any questions.
Okay, so how do you know that they don't want you to talk about what you're going to talk about with me today?
Well, right now, the first thing, and that question is the one thing that they don't want anyone to know, because right now, where I'm actually in Bellingham, Washington, and I'm out in the middle of a forest, and there's literally an air show going on, and what is part of this is it's them, it's the secret space program. They have the technology to disguise their aircraft as and it's holographic technology, so they can be flying around you, whether it be a helicopter, a C-130, an AH-1 Cobra, any type of vehicle, they can mimic, and they fly around, and it's not really what it appears to be, and actually it's a black triangle, a very advanced TR-3 series craft. And when insiders come out with information and stuff, one of their tactics that they do is they fly around, and you can ask any secret space program insider. They'll have the black helicopters, they'll have plane flyovers, and that is really them trying to get them to stop them from what they're saying.
Okay.
Because they're starting to disclose, their presence. So that's what is happening around here right now. And what I found out, and that's how I found out that I was in the secret space program in the first place, was because I started noticing planes flying around me all the time, and black helicopters unusually, and I was like, what's going on? And I looked deeper and found out it's them.
Right. So Anthony, let's talk a little bit about your background, about your experiences. You were in the military, and you're an MMA fighter now, and what else is going on in your life? Just so people get a perspective, like, well, who is this Anthony Zender guy anyway? Why should we even be listening to him?
Right. I mean, I obviously have a lot of supernatural things going on in my life with what I'm involved in, and I have the experience to be able to, with my words, tell my experiences, and that's obviously my evidence, for the truth that I have come upon in my life. And right now, I am MMA fighting. I'm active in that. I'm doing multiple things, and that's obviously part of the multidimensionality, experience, and that's kind of tapping into the full, more brain potential usage, which is actually what the Super Soldier program is all about. Is obviously higher intelligence, higher brain usage, and that comes through meditation and all of that. And I practice all of that, so I'm able to do multiple things. And I also finished writing a book that is in the processing phase. It just the edited manuscript was just edited. I sent it back, and now it's in the processing phase. So that was an 8-year project that I just brought to completion, and it's going to be on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and around the end of August.
Okay.
So
do you have a title?
All these things. Yes, it's called Son of the Morning.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm very excited about that. I write out my whole experience. So I'm coming straight forward with it, and I'm willing to present my face and everything with it, and go onward to what this is leading to, the destiny that I made for myself with writing this book.
Okay. And you have a background
involved in well, excuse me.
No, go ahead. We have a time lag here, so I'm just going to let you talk.
All right. Another thing is I am involved in an ancient mystery school, which does obviously teach supernatural human potential, with clairvoyance, telepathy, all of those abilities that obviously the powers that be tapping into. And I have been involved in disciplines and teaching that do unleash that potential, which I've been involved in as past lives in that, obviously to bring that knowledge forward, and about our latent human potential, which is obviously psychic ability.
Now you're also an MMA fighter, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that? How does that fit into your work and your philosophy and what you're doing with yourself these days?
Yeah, obviously I am a light warrior. I found out that I was a light worker, a star seed in 1985. I have the warrior spirit in me. With the fighting, obviously it entails, what I do in the secret space program, because I am all my experiences are combat related, in the secret space program. So the fighting obviously fits in right with that. And I'm actively fighting right now. In my MMA career, I lost my first 8 fights, but I never gave up, because I never have known how to give up. And then I won 7 in a row, and did a turnaround, and now I'm actually fighting for a championship next week. So, I'm 8-9 is my record, and I'm looking to even it up at 9-9. So I will completely turn my fighting career around, if I can do that, when the day comes.
And what's the venue that you fight under? What's the organization?
It's called Cage Sport. It's in Washington.
Cage.
It's a world. Yeah, it's a world. All people from around the world can fight in it. So it is for a world title. It's not UFC. It's not on TV and stuff. But
right.
The level is obviously at that level is world level. So
right. So I want to just say
martial arts.
I just want to say something for the benefit of the viewers, and why is Denny so interested in MMA fighting? And I'll just tell you that I actually went into, I think, about 3 to 6 months of training when I was 49 years old. That was about 11 years ago, and so I got to know some MMA fighters, some of them that were very successful, and I actually went through the training. And I have huge respect for anybody who undergoes that training. It was one of the most intense things I ever went through in my life. Of course, I went through it in the wrong period of my life. I was too old, but it was a great experience for me, and I just have huge respect for anybody taking something like that on, because it's really challenging at all levels, not just physically, but anyway, I'm not a big proponent of fighting or anything like that. I think that's like the wrong direction for humanity. But in terms of a discipline, it's amazing. It's an amazing sport, just because of the discipline aspect of it and the physical conditioning that's required. Just the aerobic part of it alone is off the charts. It's incredibly demanding. So anyway, I just want to put that out there, because I don't want to trivialize that as like, just because it's fighting, we have to go throw it in the dust can because we're all light workers or something like that. I understand people are going to have problems with that or whatever, but anyway, I just wanted to put that out there, in case someone's wondering, well, what's Denny's play in this? I went through the training. I was injured all the time. I was sore all the time, and I was impressed all the time. So anyway,
It is. It, it is. It's not easy though, but it does fighting. And I will say this: fighting. I am all about peace, but fighting makes you realize that you don't really want to fight. You know, and but I mean, I do it for defense. I mean, if you ask anyone, no one really wants to fight. So I mean, I know I'm doing this for a reason, to get my learning here through it, and then I can teach defense. You know, because I really want to teach people how to defend themselves. You know, when this all comes down to after I'm done competing. You know.
Right. So then you also were in the Marine Corps.
Yes, I did. I did 4 years in the Marines as an assaultman, which is pretty much infantry. But we also get demolitions, and we pretty much are breachers. You know, so we're the guys, you know, that are going up to the doors first and going up to the you know, the area of operation, and we're the first guys to go in. And that's what I did in the Marine Corps. I went over to Iraq. I did a tour over there, and for 8 months in Fallujah. So I got that experience, and the Marines was definitely an experience for me because you know, you go and you're in your high school, and you know, you think you know how the world's going, and then you go into the Marines and get sent halfway across the world. And, you know, you see that, you know, everywhere's ain't shopping malls and, you know, and movie theaters. And, you know, and the world is really a big place where, you know, there's a lot of poverty and struggle and things going on. And, I mean, it is their way of life. But, you know, there's way more going on in the world than just the box that we live in. And I got to experience that when I went over to Fallujah, and that opened my eyes to really start digging more into truth and you know, like why we were really there, because when we were there, I mean, none of us were like, why are we here? You know, why are we in the city right now? You know, doing what we're doing, and I mean, we really had no reason to be there. You know. And we a lot of the Marines and soldiers realize that, and you can ask any veteran, you know. But we carried out orders, but you know,
right.
We had, you know.
I understand. Okay, so then at some point you realized that you were in the Secret Space program. Would you consider your experience to be like a 20 and back type of experience, or was it different for you?
I know that the 20 and back was involved in it, but I'm still actually actively involved in it as well. Like, I am, you know, I get taken, and you know, and then I get put back on a regular basis. So I'm actively, you know, involved, and so is some of the super soldiers the other super soldiers that you've interviewed are obviously still active as well, and you know, and it's just when you're part of it, finding out and that you're in it is really the beginning of the journey, because once you find out you're in it, you're like, how can I be linearly experiencing my life, but getting taken out into another timeline, pretty much, and then put back. But they do have the technology to do that, and that's how they do it. So I found out I was in the secret space program after I was in the Marines. I had gotten out of the Marines, and I was just, you know, kind of doing the couch surfing thing. You know, didn't have a direction. I mean, not really having a direction. And then I started having supernatural, you know, extrasensory perception experience. And basically that began with one night I was lying on the bed and I felt a fuzz static around me, and then all of a sudden it was like I was in a tube of light. And that was my first of me being aware of an abduction that was taking place. But at the time, I didn't know what it was, But and after that, I then also obviously started to get interested in extrasensory perception. I was reading all the books, and I actually went to, and they are not going to like me talking about this. I didn't get a chance to talk about this on my other interview, but this is some proof coming out that once you start getting awakened to this, you do get approached, by people that are trying to, keep this under wraps. And so I was very involved about learning about extrasensory perception experiences after that, because obviously I wanted to understand, and I even went to go see a psychiatrist at the VA, to talk to him. And that was, I started talking to him about what I was experiencing, and I actually told him the story, about what I was experiencing, which obviously I wasn't talking about my problems and how injured I was and traumatic I was from the war. I was talking about, abductions and stuff. And so I went in there, and then so he had me come back, the next week. And this was when I went in and came back. There was a man there, in the office waiting for me. He was waiting for me in there, and he approached me, and he's like, "Hey, how's it going?" And he introduced himself, and he said he had been, commander in the Navy, and that, he had been on aircraft carriers, and just a lot of military talk, And he took me to a little bar that was over there, and he kept talking to me about military things, and he kept saying, but that's just the tip of the iceberg, He kept saying that over and over again. He would say something, and he's like, but that's that's only the tip of the iceberg. And he started mentioning things like, if it was up to me, I would assassinate the president of Iraq, and or actually it was Iran. Sorry, he said Iran. And then he started talking about how easy it would be to get a nuclear bomb in the United States. That you could just basically put one in a rowboat and row to shore. And so obviously he was talking about, he was talking about sensitive things, which obviously in our nation's defense, is in the higher levels of classification, which I think that falls under D5, which is where our that's where one of our highest classifications for our nation's defense. And obviously that would have to be doing with assassinations and nuclear bombs and things like that. But at that time, I was only a 25-year-old kid, not knowing what the hell he was talking about, really, And so I really didn't know what he was referring to, but he obviously was someone from the secret space program, and I had started breaking out of my mind control, and so I will continue this story because it is important that I finish it. But what happened was he handed me a card, and he wanted to talk to me more, after that first encounter. But I never followed through on talking to him. And then so he then shows up. The same guy shows up at my church. He showed about 2 weeks later. He's at my church waiting for me, and he happens to be talking to somebody that I actually know, from high school. So he knew that I was coming there, and he set that up and was talking to someone. And then so pretty much after that, after church, he's like, "Oh, do you need a ride home?" And I'm like, "Yeah, actually I do." And he told me about himself, and he's like, and I'm like, "So what do you do?" And he said he was a berry farmer, but obviously he was not a berry farmer. And he gave me a ride home. Yeah. He gave me a ride home, and we were talking about the military stuff, and this was where he really on me. And at that time I didn't know anything yet because I hadn't gone down the rabbit hole. But I was about to get out of the car, and he's like, you know what I've really been interested about though? He's like, aliens, and after he said that, I didn't know anything about anything yet. But then I just obviously left out of the car, and that was the last time I saw him. But he wanted to see what I knew about aliens because I was breaking my programming.
Wow.
Because obviously, when you're involved in the secret space program, you're fighting aliens. I mean, just to be blunt.
So what else do you want to share?
So that's one. I mean, it's I can go like my pretty much when my timeline. I can go in my timeline because and name off important things to where in the timeline. Even look at Leslie has a perfect example of the of pretty much the abductees' experience. Of what they experience in awakening to them being a super soldier in an extraterrestrial war. And I mean back when it started with my grandfather, and he was an engineer, and I remember as a little kid I was just aware of him and some of the projects he was working on, and he worked on some of the propulsion systems for like the SR-71 and some of the first vertical takeoff and landing crafts that and that was the only things that I knew about, and I knew that he was involved in designing lasers, and he actually, and they don't want me talking about this either, he actually helped design a laser for the Star Wars project of the Reagan days, which obviously wasn't for exactly what was being talked about. It was for, finding craft and shooting them down, with Tesla-powered cannons and stuff like that. But he was involved in that, and that's why our family is so watched all the time because of his involvement with that in the first place. And they know that we're national security threats with what he knows, because if we get out what we know, people can know what's really going on. And basically at 6 years old, I had my first abduction experience as a child, but I remember it as a dream of being taken out of my room at night by a hand. It was a hand, and that was I got that confirmed that was when they took me to a base in Texas, obviously an underground base in Texas, and that was where they began putting in the PPAI pathological the implants, that they do that they get the kids when they're young, 4, 6, some people 2, and they start injecting these alien things into them, and so to turn them into super soldiers, obviously, enhanced psychic ability, enhanced intelligence, enhanced strength, enhanced intuitive aptitude, and to start grooming and preparing the children that exhibit obviously they exhibit the traits of starseeds and super soldiers. So they're either taken by the dark side or they're utilized for the light side. And that's what I've also found in this experience too, is there are people that are used as super soldiers for the dark side, but there's also a light side fighting that side as well. Because I'm kind of skipping around here, but I won't get off topic. Sorry, I'll go back to my timeline. But then after that, after I got taken when I was 6, I also noticed back then, because my memory, I can remember, recall back when I was a child, there was multiple times too where I was aware of myself getting bloody noses, and I thought it was just, from the heat and stuff like that. But then, no, I now know that those were other abduction experiences as well, where, things were coming out, and that's one of the things is the bloody nose. So, and I had it confirmed as well that at that time I had been taken 4 more times, obviously, for them to do their tweaking to whatever it was that they were, because a human body is not supposed to have alien things in it, obviously, and so I understood that I was getting sick and stuff, and I was needing to be taken for those adjustments to be made, and I have been, because what they do is they do have the ability to do like neuralize people in Men in Black. They can, if something out of the ordinary happens in a family that is involved in this, they can actually erase people's memories of the event happening. And that actually did happen for me one time. Was I got sick when I was 12 years old and actually threw up an alien type of substance that was blue in color, and my parents took me to get it checked out, but no one knew what the hell was going on. And I was definitely confirmed that was one of the times where people's memories were erased because something unusual started to show up in my life that could have been proof that there was something else going on behind the scenes.
Okay.
And that was just up till 12, So, and then I can go on.
So why is it important for you to start talking now?
Because it's obviously there are things happening in the world where this is going to be known about. It's part of the it's part of the apocalypse. It's part of the end times. It's part of the whole thing, the prophecies, everything. It's been talked about, and people that are involved in the program obviously are the catalysts for full disclosure, because we've had these experiences, and we're going to be able to be the proof of it when all of this comes to light in the world, because the time is coming very close, because the whole war has been fought for this world to be liberated, and for these technologies that are being withheld from us by the cabal that obviously have that are doing these crimes against humanity, taking children, and using these technologies not for the benefit of humanity. There has been a force, a galactic force, that's been involved in cleaning them up and stopping them, so that what has this our humanity's destiny is to go to the stars, not die in the dirt, and that is what the whole entire war has been fought for. It's for those technologies that can help us live longer, and do things that that we that need to be done, those and the whole financial system, that is black money, Babylonian black money magic, and it's and I mean, I can actually I can do a little example. There's a movie called Warcraft, and if you're clairvoyant and you can see in movies, rather than just like, oh, it's a movie, in that movie there's an alien race that gets corrupted by an energy, and actually they call it the Fel, and it actually happens to be green, and wherever this energy goes, it destroys wherever it's at. And then so what these people that are being destroyed by this energy are left to do is to go out and seek other worlds. You know what I'm saying? So that is what has happened with Earth, is they've come here with that destructive energy, and they are destroying this world. And obviously there is an alliance and an awakening between our race and other races, where we're learning, where we have to band together to stop this destructive force from taking out everybody. And in that movie, there's a point where the alien race that's taking over the human kingdom, they notice what's happening, and they're like, and obviously it's all dark magic, and they're like, we have to band together with the humans in order to stop this force from consuming everything. And that's just really something that's happening at a galactic level, is humanity is also involved with banning with extraterrestrials as well, to stop the dark ones, that have destroyed the earth with that money magic system, So that's what's going on at another level, in our dimension.
Right. So I heard you mention before that you consider yourself a willing participant in the secret space program, at least the faction that you're affiliated with. So when they come to get you, whatever that looks like, I'm not sure whether it's like an astral projection kind of thing or whether you're actually physically removed from your room or something at night. You are considered a willing participant, so you're not someone that they have to abduct and then mind wipe in order to get cooperation. You're cooperating of your own free will. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is my case. Is obviously there's different cases, but I believe that also has to do with my actual military experience. I've been in the military, so that that's just what I am. So I am willingly volunteering to be a part of this. But I know I also have been infiltrated into the dark side of eating. My secret space program experience, I've been involved in being infiltrated as one of the darker ones that are doing all these crimes against humanity. I've actually had memory recalls of being security for Hillary and Bill. I have two different memory recalls of being, because obviously in this, security is one of the things that I do, security for high ranking people, and in one of my memory recalls, I have a recall of meeting Bill and Hillary as they were walking in to a wherever they were going, and I also have a recall of being in a Suburban with them. As well. And I know that those are two times where I've been obviously conscious in one of my clones that they do use for the secret space program, because that's why you're taken in the first place. That's why you're taken in the first place, is so they can make clones of you, and that's why they get your DNA. And I know I got clones for days, because I have all kinds of memories where I'm on other worlds and they're getting taken out, and I know through the soul transfer process that is involved in making super soldiers, where obviously they do a soul transfer, where I know that in my experience I almost did die in that process. Obviously it's not pretty, for anyone to go through that process, and it is horrific, you could say, but that's part of the process of making a super soldier, is the soul transfer part of it. And with that soul transfer, you're obviously able to be telepathically linked to what your clones are experiencing, and what they're being utilized for, because that's how I put together that I've been able to have these memory recalls of obvious experiences of missions that have been in while in the secret space program.
Okay. So how do you reconcile the fact that you're a willing participant, but yet you have interferences of those same people that you work for not wanting you to speak? Why aren't you compliant in that regard? Why are you speaking against their will?
Because one thing, I can't be quiet anymore about this. I cannot keep what I know and what I'm a part of quiet anymore. I can't walk around anymore knowing about the mind control that's going on everywhere I go. It's so clear that no one knows what's really going on, and that is the hardest part about it too. And I know that the only thing I can do to change what I am experiencing with the amount of mind control that's going on in this world is start speaking up,
Okay.
and maybe people are, start, the lights start turning on, that there's more going on than your phone and what's on TV, and and your day-to-day soul-crushing 9-to-5 job that is obviously, yes, it is how we survive. Yes, it is how we make that money to eat and stuff like that, but it's also a form of slavery as well. You know what I'm saying? And until you wake up from that, that's what I understand about one is people to have to accept that they've been mind controlled by the cabal in order for them to truly awaken.
Right.
And for a lot of people, a lot of these people that have these high up jobs, these authorities, these governors, these Senate people, it's going to be hard for them to be like, accept that someone's been controlling them. And that's what, in the ascension process, that's what's going to be determinant on whether they're able to progress or not, is you accepting that you've been mind controlled. And then that means you accepting that at some point you have been a slave,
So there's people in your life.
That's obviously known on a higher level.
Right. So there's
I was just saying that's not spiritually.
Pardon?
I was just saying, like, that decision, decisions that we make are obviously known on levels by higher entities and beings. And, you deciding to take the red pill is a real choice, and you deciding to accept that you're a slave is a real choice. You can't hide that. You can't be like, oh, I accept that I'm a slave. It's like you really gotta, or that I was a slave before I was illuminated or awakened, and you can't just pretend, So it's going to be a real thing that people are going to have to come to terms with when it all comes out.
Okay. All right. So was part of this need to speak, did it have something to do with your friends and family or just the world in general?
It's obviously the world, and that's why I obviously came back here, was for unfinished business, because I do through and my schooling, obviously mystery schools, is what the church doesn't teach. But I in past lives, in this life, I've always known the truth, and actually people were burned at the stake for knowing the truth. The Vatican and the Catholic Church burned the Templars, burned the witches back in 1307 because they actually did know about reincarnation, and obviously you wouldn't want that getting out. So that's part of the suppression I know the church is involved in, is keeping that back, is the truth of reincarnation. And I know I'm back here to get that out and be the example of it, and that is obviously being the example of it is remembering, that you have lived before, and when you do start remembering past lives, you're like, okay, I can't deny that I've lived before, in another time,
mm-hmm.
in another obviously body,
Right.
And that it is beautiful, though, because I have talked to a lot of people, and they wish they can believe in reincarnation, and I know that just what I've uncovered and in the teachings that I've learned, I've gathered enough information to vouch for its validity.
Right.
So that's part of what my book is about too.
Okay. So Anthony, how do you distinguish between actual memories and implanted memories?
Yeah, okay. Thank you for that question, though, because these are amazing questions that are helping me, because there are because the memories, they come in what they call belief through. Obviously, your mind can only consciously put what it's experienced on the experience. It can't, when it's coming through a bleed through. And there are screen memories that get put into your mind, but I will get into one of these memories, though. So that something is going on, and I'll say this, because the memory recall that I recall with Elena Kapulnik, I will say her name, about being with Trump in the meeting, that was an actual memory recall where we were both super soldiers on a mission, and we were obviously in a base somewhere with high advanced technology going around all around us, but in my memory recall, I remember seeing her, okay, but everything else around me was like, I was on a school bus instead of a ship. You know what I'm saying? I was on a school bus instead of a ship, and and instead of being in a super high advanced base, I was, back in my front yard. You know what I'm saying? And obviously that can kind of explain how they make the screen memories. But I was able to decipher that there was just with some weird aspects to it. I was actually in a Super Soldier mission with Elena Kapolnik, who confirmed I was there. Because I actually asked her about this before she even did the video of her recalling the mission, and I actually have documentation of me being like, "Hey, do you remember being with Trump?" Because I was obviously providing security for Trump, and I remember seeing you there. And then she obviously did the recall of the experience, and she's way better at recalling. She goes into her recalls, and she did validate that I was there. And that's not the only mission that I have recalled with being on missions with Elena.
Okay.
And so.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, since we brought up her, and she seems to be pretty forgiving about talking about her without her being here to explain her side of it, and this isn't really a her side of it type of a discussion anyway. As you know, I've done interviews with her, and I'm in communication with her quite a bit. And one of the more interesting things that's happened lately is a session that she did with a fellow that I work closely with named Carl Mollison, where he actually channeled her higher self. And part of the discovery, one of the big discoveries in this whole thing, was not only that a lot of her experiences were somewhat validated through that process, and I know a lot of people aren't going to believe him channeling her higher self. That for a lot of people, that's just not going to make any sense, and I accept that. It's up to each individual to decide what the validity of all of this. But one of the things that was very interesting is that how much of her experiences were set up to keep her distracted from what they called her spiritual mission. So a lot of the things that she was experiencing was actually almost, for lack of a better word, a screen memory or some experience that was happening in some form of reality, that with the intention of giving her a sense of purpose that was really for the purpose of distracting her away from her spiritual mission, or to give her something salacious to think about, or give her some idea of importance or being involved in some aspect of a secret program that had some special meaning for humanity, when all it was essentially just a distraction or something to keep her away from the truth. And I was just curious as if you have encountered any... well, first of all, I'd like to know whether you actually saw that 4-hour session. It's in 2 parts on her YouTube channel where she worked with Carl. And if you did see it, what was your impression of that? How do you think any of that could be helpful to you?
I didn't see it, but I know that it could be helpful to me, because obviously to get through to your higher self, you've got to go to another level of consciousness. You're not going to be talking on the same level that you usually are, so you're going to need to go to another level. And I'm pretty sure that all that information is coming from a much higher place. So I do think it would be helpful to me if I listened to that,
Okay.
Because obviously the things we're dealing with, the things that we're dealing with on that level are not on this level, and obviously different things are talked about, things that are, and that's what we're obviously getting to with talking about it like this.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
being open,
Yeah, she and I decided to go ahead and do a series of analysis on that, and so I watched the first, I think, hour and 43 minutes of it, and I wrote down, I don't know, it was like 20 questions or something like that, and she and I went through it, and we still have the rest of it to do, but there's, she's moving, and there's a lot of distractions going on. There's still a lot of bickering within the various factions within the secret space program, whistleblowers. I think maybe some time is needed for some of that to settle out, for people to get back on focus and stop arguing with each other. And then my hope was that at some point when she was ready, that we could go back and do some more analysis on that, because I think it could be helpful. But a lot of this is just like what you're going through. And I did an interview with a guy named Kevin recently, where the memories are still getting back. You're still finding a context for this in the middle of still having a desire to talk about it. And it's not like it's an ongoing process of revelation and relating. It's not like you're going to get some package of material and you can just put it out there and then quit and go work in the garden or something. I mean, this is something that it's a discovery for us who are watching you, and it's also a discovery for you because you're still working all this out yourself. Is that correct?
That is correct, though, and because I know it has to do with the reason why it's so interesting is because we're recalling what we've already been through, and it's going with time, and it is a very interesting process because it doesn't end, every day there's more. There, every night you go to sleep, you put more and more together, and I mean, just like I was gonna say, they do come to you in your sleep, astrally. If you're gonna reveal something that they don't want you to reveal, like if they'll come to you and make it known. Like I was told one time, I've had multiple experiences where obviously it was them coming to me in the astral form, and they're like, don't talk about. Don't talk about this. It was an agent, obviously, and they were saying, don't talk about this. And I just actually recently had one of those, and I know that Kevin Trammell and Elena did too, because Elena had taken the pictures and they were collaborating on what they were experiencing, and then Kevin got approached astrally, and they were talking about not to talk to Elena. And of course it wasn't like threatening, like, you don't fuck, it was just like they were trying to stop. They were trying to stop, that from being talked about, because it is getting close to, some stuff that they don't really want coming out yet, and that, but we're obviously recalling faster than they can. I mean, what do they expect, That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, I get, from my perspective, I don't know, I mean, I'm still learning. I've got so far to go on this. But when I hear you say that, I think, well, this must have something to do with like universal laws around free will, and that there's certain things that you cannot do when it comes to free will, and somehow that must play into this, even though in the past, they would just kill people.
Yeah, that's true, and I believe that. There's another force that's under control. That's why they're not able to kill people, and they're not killing people anymore. And plus, we are assets to them, and they don't. We have to be living for them to use us.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Obviously, with because no one else can occupy our clone. It's like a signature. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, like only you can use what you they're utilizing you in, and but I do know that they try to stop it, but actually things in the media getting leaked out right now.
Yeah.
That if you didn't, you wouldn't see the same thing as if you were, and you can kind of start seeing, okay, they're starting to release things. Trump's talking about domination in space now. These kind of things. You're like, they must be getting ready to start, giving some stuff out.
Right.
But people think we're just getting started. But really, it's been started. But we're gonna start knowing that now.
Yeah.
And I know that Trump is involved in that. With that alliance. Bringing that forward. And thank God for that.
Hey, Anthony, when your book comes out, do you foresee yourself like going on a speaking tour or being part of these conferences that they have? Like, I just went to one conference down in Joshua Tree. It was a Contact in the Desert, and they had a bunch of speakers down there. Do you see yourself doing something like that at some point?
I'm definitely, because I came to Denny, Julie, I just got from that, and definitely had a 4-day experience there, and I was approached. I've talked to James. He's actually going to interview me on his show too. He's really looking forward with this, and I talked to some other guys that are going to have me on their show. So, and they did tell me about the actual program in Vegas. I think at the end of this month, Corey Good and David Wilcock are going to be there. In Vegas, doing a Super Soldier conference. Yeah, and I was asked if I was going to that. I might actually go to that, but I do see myself once my book is out. I am definitely going on a selling and speaking tour.
Okay, all right. So, Anthony, is there anything else? I got to tell everybody we're kind of crossing our fingers because we don't have a good Skype connection. So we're kind of going on faith right now that this will be good enough to actually make into something I can put public. There's a possibility that it's not going to be good enough, and we're just going to have to follow up on Wednesday. We're going to shoot for Wednesday, but we're rolling up on an hour here. There's not a time limitation, but I do want to give you an opportunity before we lose the connection because it's a bad connection. If there's anything else you want to talk about before we wrap it up.
Yes. Obviously, there's going to be the Federal Reserve is going to not be existent, very soon, and that is going to lead to a changeover. But there is a new system, that's always been getting ready to be implemented to replace that system, and we are about ready to experience that, and that's going to be the biggest change that everybody is going to have to get ready for. Is there the money not being? Obviously there's going to be a new form of currency to start things up, but pretty soon, obviously that's our future. There is going to be no money. That's the goal. Is the Star Trek civilization? Because we all know Gene Roddenberry knew some stuff that he was getting out there. But the best thing about this though is that the Republic is being implemented on this earth, and believe it or not, that's the hardest thing for people to believe, especially in these times where it kind of seems hopeless. Like, if you're seeing all the false flags attack, all the war, all the poverty, you're just like, how the hell is all this going to change? How is it possible? But the thing is that it is possible, and that there is a system that is about to come onto this world that's going to be basically a liberating system for humanity, and everything is going to get cleaned up, and that's why we're still here. Mm-hmm. So, that would be, there is, there's people going to get the meaning of what a new hope is, when people are able to start seeing this happening, in the world. It's going to be inspirational, mm-hmm. for humanity, and we are going to start rising.
So, what is your take on this? I think it's called Project Bluebeam, where NASA is complicit along with the cabal in creating a alien invasion scenario where they were able to collect the world up into a new one world religion. Because frankly, when I saw some of the narrative that you were giving with James Rink, I kind of saw some elements of that in your discourse, in terms of a new monetary system, new technologies being introduced, a new worldwide government, that kind of thing. A lot of those are trappings of that whole program of softer, kinder, new world order system that's run by the same old bad people, just boiling the frog, as it were, for a new form of slavery that just looks a little different than the old form of slavery. Do you have any concerns that you might be complicit in something like that with your cooperation?
I know that what I'm fighting for is supposed to liberate humanity, and obviously it's going to be different than the way it's been, but it's still going to be a way. And I don't think that people are going to be seeing it as being it as slaves. I know that other races, other extraterrestrial races that have reached higher dimensions, obviously their forms of government are different, but it's a form of government. And democracy, which is we have democracy, and we think that that's the highest form of government, but that's been infiltrated. And the people that are the most that are supposed to be in the positions are supposed to be in. That is what a meritocracy stands for, and that is what a true republic stands for. And basically, that is what the form of government will be. Is the best people are going to be in the highest positions, and I believe that that doesn't involve the slavery narrative in this new world order that I know that I've been fighting for, because I know the whole new world order thing has been tarnished. It's like, is it this? Is it that? What is it? But from what I've learned of what the new world order is, it's a new government, a new education, new, because we do need a little new education system, and I know that the higher civilization, the higher civilizations, they do make it so they do educate their differently, and that's why they're at higher levels than we are, and we're trying to join with nations and civilizations that have reached higher heights. So we have to go to them, not them come to us, but they'll meet us halfway, and that's what I believe we're about to experience.
Okay, interesting. Okay, well, if you're interested, I'm interested. Maybe we could do a follow-up on Wednesday anyway, even if this one turns out to be okay. Is that something that would be okay with you?
Definitely. I have more to talk. I could go on with some stories that just keep validating. I can just keep validating.
Okay.
With stories and my timeline, because I only got to when I was 12. So.
Okay. Well, let's do that. I am concerned about this video, whether I'm going to be able to actually post it or not, because we have such a bad connection, and there's a time lag in our speech, which is making the communication kind of awkward. So maybe just let's wrap it up. I'm going to let you talk one more time, and then I'm going to close. I'm going to say goodbye, and then offline we'll talk a little bit. Then I'm going to let you go. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just I will admit, when I first started waking up to this, I mean, some of the things that you find out that you're involved in are completely unbelievable. I mean they are unbelievable, and that's why you need the spirituality. You need to start learning about, all the higher dimensions and stuff, because it is involved in a higher dimensional thing, and obviously those things that are happening in that dimension are not what are happening here, and that's why it is unbelievable. But I have come to a point to where I've gathered enough knowledge to start believing in these things, and the hardest thing to believe in is something you can't believe in, So like, yeah. So I'm still some of the things are unbelievable, but I've pretty much given in. I have pretty much tapped out, and I'm just like, okay, I'm these are real. These things are real, and I'm gonna just be recalling more and more. And I know it really is getting down to where I'm going to be getting approached in a very, very surprising way.
Right. Okay. Well, Anthony, I really appreciate this. this wasn't the best circumstances to do an interview, and you had to make an emergency visit away from home, and now you're using a friend's computer, and we don't have a good Skype connection, and you have an air show going on, and all this falderall. But hopefully it'll be good enough so that we can put it out there, and I'll send you the link. And I want to thank everybody for joining us, and thanks again, Anthony, and we'll see you soon. Bye bye, everybody.